questions? Okay. So how does CERF relate to me and my community? I think here is where we want to see. We have a number of these planning documents out. We're just curious to reflect on kind of what we can do, what we can plan for as part of CERF in this business association, industry working group. What is missing today that we can start highlighting? We mentioned broadband. These are a few examples of regional plans and projects that are out. We've talked about transportation to and from employment centers, transportation to the north end, childcare. Really, I think what are businesses telling you all that they need in order to be more successful?
Funding.
Funding, yeah. Okay. What type of funding? What do you mean by that? Just general, like
sometimes maybe they just need to expand. They need a new location. They need to do some upgrades to their current location. Restaurants. During COVID, we identified that a lot of these businesses really needed those grants that were out there. But in general, small businesses don't necessarily go to the bank and are able to get that loan that they need. We ourselves have a business resource center. We provide resources to small businesses, and one of those resources is a small loan program which right now we're limited to the amount of funds that we can provide every quarter, but so far we've funded 11 small businesses in the area, and we are working on growing that by speaking to local banks, other organizations that perhaps want to contribute to the fund so that we can expand and create a small business revolving loan program. That's definitely something that we hear a lot. Even, opening up their doors if something happens. We just had a couple of weeks ago a small business, their kitchen burned down. They don't necessarily have the funds to rebuild. So a lot of the small businesses here, they struggle with funding.
Yeah, I think that's a great insight. Thank you for that. I think our revolving loan was something that was funded through the pilot project already. Already around this program. That was in LA. Not here.
Yeah, the county sitting on, I can't remember how many millions of dollars for community benefit, and to date, I think this year may have not enough money. Yes, I mean the thing is that getting the money is one thing, getting it out the door is another thing. So streamlining that process, and they were doing grants, now they're doing loans, same with the IID, Imperial Irrigation District for the water transfer. So that's something that we could definitely help with, because we're just limited on funding. As soon as we get money, we have a pipeline. I think we just got 150,000 in the bank, so we'll be loaning that money in the next couple of weeks.
But part of our job is not just having the ability to loan the money. It's our staff works really hard at making sure that we're promoting that these programs are out there. That's what our Business Resource Center does. It's not just our programs. We do partner up with local organizations because another issue is it's a small community, but the way that information gets out there, it's really word of mouth. A lot of our community members, they don't necessarily do research online or don't have access to the internet, so they really is by hearing it from somebody else. So what we do is, make sure that as a staff, we can get that information out there as easy as we can, and as effectively as we can. So I think that's another issue, perhaps finding a better way of getting this information to the community. How do we do it? There's a language barrier, and like I said, not everybody Googles things. So even if there is a workforce development office, how do they know what programs they have when they can't access that through the internet? That's another struggle.
I agree, and I think you mentioned it this morning. I think the best way is to find a community champion, somebody that the community trusts, and locally, the schools and the churches are a really good way to do outreach. It's just a place people trust. But even then, I mean, I just told you, we had our local workforce, our first meeting in Westmoreland, we sent notices out with the water bill. And still, so it just depends on what the conversation is. There's also a lot of overload right now. Community conversations all over the place, and people are just tired. Yeah, they're exhausted. So that's the other thing.
Hey, John, if I could just touch on the transit plan.
Yeah.
You know, I think Imperial County, we've got a pretty good, our Imperial County Transportation Commission is doing a really good job, but if you look at the amount of people that ride buses, it's pretty low. And in a couple of areas, if you look at the east port of entry and soon to be the Lithium Valley, in both those areas, we could be within the next year creating 3,000 jobs apiece. That's 6,000 jobs, and there's no transportation. I know that they're looking at between the east port of entry and Plexico is one location, but keeping up with that and making sure that that's part of the plan as we move forward, because one of the things is the amount of greenhouse gas emissions of all the cars driving back and forth is going to be huge, and parking is going to be a major issue. The other thing is the roads, so that's a whole issue in itself, is the amount of unpaved roads that we have. And so the good thing is, you mentioned this about hindrances to development, is our PM10 and the air emissions. The good news is we have our own air district and we can mitigate. The issue is the funds to mitigate. And so, as an example, if you have a project and there's a dirt road, then if you can either pave that road or put base down, then that can offset the emissions. But that takes money to do that, or plant a park. And so those are the things that will benefit the community as we have development, but it really does lack the money to do that. So the good news is we can mitigate. The bad news is it's not money to help mitigate, which puts it completely on the burden of the business, which is a hindrance to doing business here. And Priscilla, our workforce development board is working on the workforce plan. So there's a lot of overlap, and so I think there's a starting point, not only with the local workforce plan, we'll start on the SEDS document. And so the things that you mentioned that are needed, we're all working on that right now. So it should be a pretty easy task of connecting it, because if we're doing it for this, we can also do it for that at the same time.
I think it's important to leverage the work that's being done across the board, not just as far as what we're doing in our own little world, but how we connect to all of this that's going on. Like I said, they blend into each other after a while. You're listening to all these, and it sounds like the same thing, but they all have different components. How do they connect? And how can work that's already been funded for this help us save money and time over here? Because again, you have to look at it in the big picture. This is for the community of the County of Imperial. It's not for City of El Centro alone, or the City of Calexico alone, or the City of Highland Republic. It's a bigger picture. And the way I see it, the north end is where this is coming in, and it needs to be addressed. There's a lot of infrastructure, transit, lighting, sidewalks, none of that. The storm that just happened with Hurricane Hillary didn't do anything. A week later, we had this obscure storm out of the blue that came in and just wreaked havoc on that community. And part of it is that all the ground stabilizers were gone. All the trees, all the rocks, everything was already wet from the week before. We're not ready for rain like this. That was part of it, right? So these are the things we need to look at for, major industries that are coming in to set up shop here. This is the community that they're doing it. So how can we make it better?
So if we want to think about planning also, can I just, what about livability, restaurants, entertainment, things to do, quality of life thing? How are you all? Yes, we're in industry right now, so what can we do to support industry?
I'll tell you,
small
we have
businesses?
the chairman of our workforce board, Eric Freeman, is a big proponent of this, and he's always saying, how do you get the executives to come to want to move to the County of Imperial when they have, an hour away, either way, they've got communities like Coachella or, La Quinta or Yuma that have more to offer in the way of family life, quality life, location. That needs to be addressed immediately, because, we have a very finite number of schools, private and public, and we have limited number of restaurants, and only so many people like to go four-wheel driving or, whatever. It's not like we can go boating on the Salton Sea. So what do we have to offer? That's how we address.
So Priscilla brought something up because you think it's a big stretch that somebody would live in La Quinta, as an example, PG West and drive to the Imperial Valley. In most areas, if you look at any metropolitan cities, San Diego, Los Angeles, they're used to driving an hour and a half to get to work. La Quinta to Lithium Valley, less than an hour. And no traffic. So what we do find is that a lot of the executives live in surrounding areas as far away as San Diego, Lima, La Quinta, because number one, we don't have the housing here, we don't have the amenities. It's improved quite a bit. But I think people come here are surprised when they drive through the Imperial County and see the amount of, fast food restaurants as an example, or the Home Depots, and they go, wow, you have everything we have. Well, we do, but not really upscale. And so that is a big challenge for us in trying to attract the executives who, by the way, if they're making a lot of money here and going home, they're shopping at home, and we're not capturing the sales tax. But one of the things Camilo mentioned is be interesting to see, we haven't looked at this lately, sales tax per city and how that's increased. But Calexico as an example, if you drive through Calexico on 111, there's 2 gas stations that are closed down. So if the other ones are full, I'm just going to keep driving. A lot of the, they opened up the outlet center because of the new port of entry that's going to be put in. Well, that new port of entry they're hoping is going to be done 5 years ago, and it's just nearing completion today. And so we haven't seen quite the impact that we're expecting to see from Mexicali and daily shoppers that we've seen. It's become more of a hindrance than it had been in the past. And so they're not capturing that foot traffic, and they're not capturing the traffic driving through. So I think Camilo's right in his assessment of how we can increase that. But I think the outlet center is doing okay, but it's not doing great.
And one more thing that I want to add, going back to who should be here also is that conversation. I don't see municipalities. Right? Why is that important? Because we're talking about development, we're talking about those housing, restaurants, right? All of those go through a permitting process. In a lot of the cities, we have an issue with that. And I can speak on behalf of Calexico. Calexico right now is very limited when it comes to staffing, especially in the planning department. Fee schedule is so old that it's actually the highest in the county, in any city that can't be impaired. So, that in itself, it's a detriment for business attraction because if your fees are so high, if you come to the city, and this is not to put down the city, but this is just putting this at the table for the reality right now. It's going to take me, months or maybe a year to get my project done, or even go through the process. That's not conducive to investing into creating infrastructure. And yes, we attract businesses. We have, Tim mentioned, the outlets, but the outlets, you can only go in one way, come out the same way, because the bridge that, had a connection, through the west side of the outlet has been out for more than a year. Actually, going into almost 2 years. So there is no access. So it's infrastructure, it's permitting, it's having these conversations, and that's the case for the county also. Their infrastructure, the bridges, too, the roads, and again, how do we convene all of these cities, all of these decision makers also, and expedite the process.
And I throw a reference to that to the airport. The airport, just the parking lot needs to be. That's just looking at it. But the flights that are to hubs right now, it's LA and Phoenix, if I'm not mistaken. And then from there you can go out. It's easy if you're gonna take a flight from LAX. It makes it easy to have 4 flights a day. Coming and going to LA. I don't know how many are from Phoenix, but they used to have one directly to Vegas, which was packed twice a week. I used it, I loved it, they took it away. So we need more attention to the airport to be able to entice, big cities and big companies to come in. They have an easy access. Right now it's LAX here or Phoenix here. And sometimes the planes are, it's only it's 11-seater, including the pilots, if I'm not mistaken. So that's it, that's all you got.
Yeah, I've been flying a lot lately. I think I've only flown, probably the last 10 trips I've only flown out of here twice. And because either the times didn't match up, or it was full. And so I got to Palm Springs almost on a regular basis now. So I look at the price, I look at the distance, I look at the time, and what I have going on. But if we had more flights and larger planes, and by the way, these flights aren't subsidized, but the company is only operating with 9 passenger planes, and they're almost always full.
Not always, I've never been on a plane. We use it quite a bit. But that's a big one, because it's a convenient plane, to be honest with you, they're gonna go out with a big public. But it takes a lot of research, and the only way you can do it in one fell swoop is if you go on to American Airlines. If you go on to American Airlines and search Imperial, whatever, they will put it together.
You know, so just recently, I think it's United and Alaska, but what I've noticed is, let's say as an example, if you book through United, if you book separately, and you're going to San Francisco, it could be maybe $300 round trip. If you book through United, it could be $900 round trip. So if you book it separately, then your bags will not,
Recheck.
you have to recheck your bags. So that's a real thing.
That's just something.
Well, I think another thing to talk about who's not here, like you were saying, municipalities is the small businesses themselves, or small to large businesses, especially those in our priority industry sectors. You know that a lot of our strategic planning documents are targeting that we do the outreach right now to get them here to these meetings, and Alma and I are happy to support that. So if we can, get a schedule that we can promote to our contact lists in the business community to get more people here for meetings like this, we're very happy to do that. We can do it.
So our next meeting will be in roughly 2 weeks or so, 2 or 3 weeks from now. We're just working on the schedule with all of the other sectors, and if that meeting is like, go through again, potentially if it's their first time, a quick overview of like what CERF is, and then talk about, we want to elect sector leaders who can come and represent us, that, the sector leader will be working with the small business community or the business community directly to say, like, here's what's happening in CERF, what do we all think as a group. So that's our next meeting, because then it's really, like, as the conveners, we want to step aside and let the sector leaders kind of take over. And it's there, it's like, we're here to bring them together and then play a support role in this. So that's kind of our plan. But we can show like a flyer and a time and a day, and it would be very helpful.
And we do have also, just in case depending on how many people you have, the business center in El Centro can manage about 40 to 50 people in the multi-purpose room.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to use it, just let me know. And then business services can definitely send that to their contacts as well. And yeah, we can. We can try to get it out.
Yeah.
Great, excellent. Thank you for that.
You mentioned earlier about that group, the wonderful, what do you call it?
The Better World Group.
Yeah, so, sorry, I didn't remember the name. But, big challenge that we have is there's a lot of consultants that are being hired from outside the county, and when they come in, they're not aware of what's here. So when we were contacted by that group, they contacted us because the project coordinator used to work with the Sierra Club, and I worked with her on the Grow and Gal program many years ago, which has resulted in, with Ocotillo Wind and some of the solar fields developing a program for the growing out. And so anyway, she had a list of people that she contacted, and then she contacted us, and she told us what they were doing, and we'd already done all that work. So we were able to just provide all the work that we, and so it gave them, it probably elevated them to a much higher level in the sense of the time that it was going to take them to do the project, where they could really, rather than trying to gather the information, they could actually spend their time on the implementation. So we find that quite often is that people here are not quite aware of some of the studies that are being done, like the OEDC with the SEDS. has a lot of the information, will have a lot of the information. And the workforce plan and broadband plan, all this stuff is already there. And we continually are updating it. And so, there needs to be better coordination. Because, like I said, when we're contacted, then basically people say, oh, this is what information you need. It's like, no, we don't need to go out and have a forums because we already did that. And we can bring the people together and actually have the information for them.
Yeah, I think I was contacted through a Better World Group. Wonderful is the fruit company.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. As someone from the Central Valley, you see their signs everywhere now. I was contacted by the Better World Group. There was like broadband, there was, I want to say like research, and there was a community engagement where there were three, like research and implementation or something, like how to be a biologist, what kind of conservation work, what mitigation efforts can be done. We're talking about dust, we're talking about conserving some of the wetlands for migratory birds. That's the area that we were going in because they were talking to us about how many biologists, how many people in conservation, how many people doing civil engineering. And it just seemed strange that like they were the ones contracted, and I was like, this is already happening out there.
Yeah.
Because that coordination, I don't think
It's kind of like your 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else on this planning session that we can discuss or walk through?
Can you talk a little bit about the up or down, how that fits in?
I think it was mostly just what is the outcome of that, right? So how are these activities changing your life? There were some roundtables. These again were smaller roundtables, but I figured talking to them was probably a bit easier. As you also mostly know each other, so.
Well, I'll just let you know that the Up or Down is probably 2 employees that came through that program. Yeah. And one of them, Cynthia Mancha, is doing great work throughout the community.
Yeah. We were just trying to give some examples of funded programs or funded activities that are taking place. So then it was just,
Yeah. Well, just add one, our internship to career program, and the program that we have at Roseland College is going to be expanding next year. How did you mean? Was it today?
which one?
The one with for the revolution?
Oh yeah,
That was last Monday.
Yeah, we're good. I think I just need to go on that. I'm meeting on that. So.
Yeah, that was last Monday. I lost a week.
Yeah, you lost a week. It's due today. It is due. I will get it in. Yeah. So anything else? I think we've covered a lot of things that are needed.
Can you define projects?
Yeah, so what CERF will entail is this planning effort right now, data collection, pulling together a document around net zero economy, right? Then it will go to technical assistance for project development. Those projects are determined by the sector, the regional and sub-regional tables, right? So they're going to say we should invest $5 million in this project. Let's just say, let's go the path of like a labor training center, like a dedicated space for all of the trades to come together and do training in one location. Also a great way for people to do outreach, right? Like which trade do you want to go in and learn, right? So this trade center could be a project that we propose under the CERF program. So we're like, okay, we all agree on this idea conceptually. What pre-development money can we put at it? So like getting all of the different trades to buy in, doing an environmental impact report on modification of the building or whatever it is, doing community outreach, talking about how do we reach these communities best. And so then when it's proposed to the state as an implementation project, it is like we've removed all of these barriers. We need $5 million to retrofit this specific building in this specific region to provide transit to and from, and here's the jobs that will result from that. So that could be like one project that will be like designed through the planning phase to say like there's a labor shortage and need in these sectors. We've done some technical assistance and some pre-development work to remove the risk of that project, and then we propose the project during the implementation phase, which will come next. And if that's funded, it has to be expended by September 30th, 2026. So these projects can be built, set up, and ready to go. So that could be a project. The project could be mobile training station, right, to go to high schools in the north end, or to go to middle schools in the north end to do career development work. Again, the project would be designed and voted on by the sector leads, right, as a sub-regional or regional task group, and then it will receive technical assistance money, and then it will go through implementation. It will be competitively reviewed for implementation at the state. So I would imagine there's going to be 20 proposals probably that come out of the San Diego and Imperial region, and 10 each. I think we want to submit more than our fair share, right? Because they're going to review them competitively. And so if we have 10 proposals coming out of each county, or maybe it's 7 and 5, or maybe there's one that's like both counties, right? Those proposals, those implementation proposals, have to align with the planning document that is being created right now. So if we say, in that planning document, here are the 3 sectors that we want to highlight as part of our net zero economy, and someone says, I want to build, let's just go wild, a oil extraction site out here. That's not in line with the CERF program. So we do have to make sure that it's what community members want for their net zero sort of carbon economy, what is needed, aligned with the planning document, and they can receive technical support to submit it. So like part of the Catalyst program will be, once the HRTs or the regional tables have identified a certain number of projects, we can pull in like grant writing support for all of those projects, so that at least we can submit 20 high quality projects and let the state decide what they want to fund.
The 3 biggest sectors, and I'll just take IBDC as an example. We're working on about $45 billion of projects, and we've already talked about Lithium Valley. Lithium Valley is what everybody's talking about, but literally is 20 to 25% of what we're working on. So what's everything else? It's actually biofuels, and it's logistics.
Yeah.
And so those are the 3 main sectors. In the case of Lithium Valley, I just put something up there. We there's only one place to charge electronic vehicles. That's what they're looking for. And it was at the mall. And well, since then we put in 3 other stations, but still, it's very limited. And so, if you look at jobs, if we're really going to move forward and be part of this economy, we need to have electric vehicles and we need to have charging stations. And with charging stations, who's going to build them? Is there going to be companies coming from outside the county and coming in, or are there going to be people trained here that can actually install all these charging stations and the repairs that take place? And so we can actually be an exporter of jobs, not just importing jobs to do work and people leaving. That's just one sector. But it goes along with the whole cluster of the electronic vehicles.
Yeah, absolutely. And usually they get, the way I've seen it designed in San Diego, they get like an electrician that has like a certification for managing EV charging infrastructure, because I own an EV and they break all the time. No, not the car, the chargers. The cars are phenomenal. No, the cars are, I've done 0 maintenance on my car in 8 years. Like, it is crazy. New tires, only new. But the charger is always like broken. And people will like vandalize them for some reason, but like the clicking thing that locks it in is often broken, so they have to come and fix these things all the time. But they usually use like somebody that runs a small business. I have a maintenance contract with ChargePoint for this many of their chargers, and it's just a small business, somebody that does that work specifically because they're a national company that needs local workers, right? But they don't want to hire them, whatever. But that training is, I don't know where it's being done, who's doing it. Especially if you can do like the 440 fast charger, or super fast charger, DC power. It's like, see, it takes training to not electrocute yourself. And so, yeah, so there's a lot there. That's, we have that problem in San Diego also, which is not getting enough chargers anyway. And there's a lot of money coming down the pipe for building a network of chargers across the country.
Well, it's in about 1/4 of chargers in California.
Yeah. And I think CCP has the contract for building chargers in the county right now from CEC. Yeah.
The strategy, usually like the Tesla approach, they usually have also the businesses approaching them to collaborate and build those charging stations, because that brings customers. So, and I think, on that strategy, I think that could be something that could be of interest to the business. Because I have yet to see, besides the mall and right there, by Coin Motorsports, that they have those charging stations, and they do great because, again, you have the amenities there. But now, in just taking that approach, right, for every city or for every business, I mean, I heard that right here by Food for Less, they're thinking about installing chargers also right here in Mexico because of that potential attracting businesses. Same thing for the outlets. So, I mean, if you're driving, as you know, you get the map where you can go charge. But, there has to be that outreach, that education. How many businesses know that that could be a potential, way of attracting customers? I mean, how do you go about that? How do you go about the permitting also? Even permitting those stations too. I mean, I was just looking at that, about a year and a half ago, in our city, where we were updating, the fee schedule. I was thinking, okay, even for your residential charging, you have to go through a permitting process, and I wonder how many people also know that. But again, it's outreach, it's bringing, the small businesses or businesses to get educated and to make sure that, they know and they understand that it's a business opportunity. To that point, we need to have a year to create that, awareness and to maybe bring those projects, that, we're talking about here, trying to refine, because they're the ones that will let us know also. I mean,
Camila, so is there any place to charge electronic vehicle in Mexico?
No.
So, Brawling,
Camila's house.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, grocery outlet in Brawling is a new restaurant, or new grocery store, has about four chargers. AMPM in Imperial, Bank of America at Centra, the regional mall, and that's all I
In front of, right there where.
Coin Motorsports.
have. Fun motorsports.
Costco.
Do they?
Costco, I've never seen them.
I have yet to see.
So we're gonna be the leader of producing lithium for batteries for electronic vehicles.
No charges.
But you can't buy them, you can't charge them.
I mean, it's also, if you look at like the electronic bus industry,
Right.
like, talking about air quality, well, buses.
It's funny you mentioned that, I went to a meeting and I don't remember which one, and I don't remember who said it. But Raleigh High School had, I think, 5 electric buses, and I think the majority of them right now aren't working, something about the heat,
Interesting.
something about the heat.
Like the operational environment.
So it might be, might be something we need to look at too, how,
Yeah.
how would that work?
I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is about charge and discharge rate. I don't know about operating environments. Yeah, like how quickly you can charge a car is.
Because we're talking about facilities to store, right? So how would our weather affect that?
Yeah, I know they don't like extreme heat or extreme cold. I just don't know how extreme heat.
Well, here it's pretty darn extreme.
I was just saying, I was telling Monty, I was like, if it's on 111 today, it's a nice time of year to be here.
Well, in 3 years, I lost about 30% of range.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
13% or 30?
no, 13.
Oh, 13, yeah, so I'm like 80 something percent.
I don't know, I'm so happy about that.
78% of battery life. I've had my car since 2017. It's a leak.
So when you guys travel out, you have to literally plan your travel.
So I drive. We have a separate car, but Thompson drives.
Do you have a plan? Sectors?
So there's,
charging?
yeah. So I mean, if you have a Tesla, you can make it, but my leaf is not.
Oh.
It's a big town. Sorry. I know that's sort of a side conversation, but anyway.
Well, going back to industry cluster, we talked a lot about electronic vehicles, but as I mentioned, the majority of our efforts are actually in biofuels. So it's ethanol, it's biodiesel, dimethyl ether, and that's our largest sector in the propane. So when we put together our sets document, I think people will be really surprised because we based upon what's happening and what's being planned. plan, not what's happened in the past or what seems to happen in the future, then I think it'll really be interesting people's opinions of what those industry clusters are. Because I think if we did a survey, Priscilla, before, during, and after this process, I think you're going to see people blown away. But I've been telling people, it's like, this Lithium Valley is a game changer for the Imperial County. But it's only 20% of what we're working.
So the other thing we didn't talk about, I don't think we mentioned it, we didn't mention it in the other meeting, we have mentioned it today, that we need to talk about, or we need to at least have written down somewhere, is the healthcare industry. When we talked about quality of life and how we get people to come to the county Imperial, you've got one hospital that has life-saving, or that, you know, that you're able to go to. What happens if you're living in Mexico and you have a heart attack and you have to get sent to Raleigh?
They put you in a helicopter flight, so
That'll be faster? What is it?
no,
35, 40 minutes?
no, you're going to take an ambulance to Raleigh, and then they're going to put you in a
Helicopter flying somewhere else. So that's important. And the city of Central has their hospital, but limited.
They moved the birthing hospital to Raleigh.
Oh, yeah, no children will ever be born in El Centro again, at least not on purpose, right? So, you know, but they won't go to the hospital to be born there, that's.
Well, I think that's an analysis I think Larry Lewis has a pretty good grasp on this with the healthcare authority. You know, he tried to open they did open a cath lab in Raleigh to alleviate that issue, but they couldn't attract a doctor. And so the specialists have been really almost forced out of the Imperial Valley to San Diego for the fact that the liability issues, it's less liability from a helicopter to go to San Diego than it is to treat here. So we've lost a lot of our specialists. And specialists used to be pretty easy to see a specialist in Imperial County because doctors in San Diego would drive down here for a couple days a week. Now they don't do that anymore. So you have to drive to San Diego.
Yeah, there's no oncology.
There is, you can have, you can have some services here, but they're very limited. People prefer to go to like the Cancer Moores, clinic, in San Diego, or other places to get their chemo or radiation. You can have it here. A lot of places.
And would you have a
Everyone's running Pioneer, right? Is that what we're going?
Pioneers is going. But we do have a bus that specifically just takes people to the hospitals to the ICTs.
How many trips? There's a charge, so it's not free. There's some money for certain people, but they can charge. So I don't know how many. I think it leaves once a day. It leaves like at 6 and comes back in the county in like 7. I think it's only one trip.
So you're on Boston, you're ready for everybody to come and be done and come back.
But even with that, you know, kind of like the elephant in the room with regards to healthcare, you know, what's going on right now with the hospitals. I think what it's going to look like the new Imperial Valley Healthcare district, right? So when AB 19, that's what, you know, what's being discussed, and even though this is a done deal, but, you know, a lot of people are mad at, you know, the way that it was finalized after we went through the amendment, so. And that would be a different topic of conversation that we're all going to have a different take on that. But that is really crucial because again, you know, it's crucial for business. You know, it's crucial for quality of life. And if you don't have healthcare,
That would be part of your foundation.
yeah, that is reliable, or at least that people can agree to as to how that will look like for the now and the future. I mean, it's concerning. That's something to look at. It's something to really put some work into that.
San Diego State University locally, this campus has also done a really good job of looking at increasing their degree program. It would be great to increase it as much as possible. Right?
Yeah, the 3-year program, I mean, we're trying to.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I mean, the biggest challenge is very obvious. Travel nurses are streaming the system. Sort of full stop.
Well, it's because it's full stop. If you have a local nurse working at $30 an hour and a travel nurse working at $200 an hour, how's that fair? Doing the same exact thing.
No, I agree, absolutely. Thank you all for your time. If there are any other questions, I guess, for today, go. Just our next steps, become a coalition member, there's the form there. We are going to elect sector leads, that's our next plan after the next, there's one more sector meeting. Sector leads are going to be elected, and then they will be in charge of convening sector meetings, right? So they will sort of move to them. And again, they will be compensated as long as they want to participate through September 26th. So if you know anybody from this sector or outside of the sector, please, encourage them to participate. And there's the websites, and that's it. There's another meeting taking place in the middle of the week, another CERF meeting. There's one taking place at, no, the tribes are in here at 3.